So basically now what happens is we're going to share with everyone the beautiful question. She'ela. Look at the top of number 1. She'ela. Question. Hech na'agu בימי הקדמונים מזמן התלמוד מעשה שהיה בכפר אחד שדר שם איש אחד והיה מחזיק בסתר ינסרף למכור בלא patent, which is basically without a rishayom, without any type of so he was selling different types of good drinks, but under the table, neged chok, akira, right, against the law. And some people, they would come and they would try checking in the IRS, so start looking into it. And all of a sudden, somebody comes in, and he comes and he breaks it. Shavar et bakbuk. Or he pours it all out. And what happens is, now, what's going on? The guy gets all upset, but all of a sudden comes in video at the exact same time, the IRS. They come in, they start checking in, inspections, and he was saved from a lot of money. So the question is he obligated to pay or not obligated to pay? That's the question, right? So right away I went and I asked the question, and somebody jumped up and he said, yes, you're obligated to pay. Why?
No, it's 2 different cases. One, because he saved him for the fine, but anyway, he did the action of breaking it.
Saving him has nothing to do. You take the merchandise, you have to pay for the action.
I mean, the nafkamina at the end, he was saved from a fine, but anyway, the guy brought.
So they're going to bring a Gemara in Baba Kama.
Baba Kama.
Baba Kama, Daf Yud Zayin Amud Bet. By Rava. Rava comes and he asks the question. Yeah, page 1.
Non, là, c'est tout le début,
Page 1. Page 1. On page 1, the Gemara Baba Kama says, by Rava. דרסה על כלי ולא שברתו ונתגלגלה למקום אחר ונשבר. Right? What happens right now if the animal tramples on a utensil and what happens is that it doesn't actually break it. It moved somewhere else and then it broke. What's the halakha? Do you go after me karaz linan and therefore it's his body or afterwards? So he says, Seif Shalom Rabba. Rabba says, if I'm going to take a utensil and throw it off the roof. We just learned this in Daf Yomi. We just learned this in Daf Yomi. Somebody takes a utensil and throws it off the roof. Somebody's on the bottom and he wants to play baseball. So he takes the bat, he comes and he sees 1, 2, 3, oops.
So Chayav is the one with the baseball.
What happens now?
Chayav is the one with the baseball.
Yeah. Is he patur or is he chayav?
Who? The baseball guy or
the baseball guy?
Yeah,
he's what?
He's chayav.
Patur.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Says the Gemara. He's patur. Says the doctor. It's already broken. He broke a utensil which is already broken. Mana tevira tavar. He broke a broken utensil. And therefore, since he broke a broken utensil, he should be patur. And svara pshutahi. Okay, fine. Right? Now he comes and we're going to bring another Gemara. Gemara Mesechet Menachot. The Gemara is talking about, right, what happens right now if a person's going to fish on Shabbat Chas Shalom. What's the Isur?
Fishing.
Sad. So therefore, trapping. Sad, and what's he going to be chayav? Sekila. I'm going to ask you a question. Imagine right now that he comes and he wants to trap fish. And when he's going to trap fish, he comes and he brings up a child. He didn't know that a child drowned. And all of a sudden he puts the net and he brings up the child and he saves the child's life. What's the halakha? Listen to this. Gemara, Samech Daled, it's on the top. The Gemara says, Itmar. Shama shetava tinok bayam. If he heard that a child went and he's drowned in the sea, upiresh mitzuda la'alot dagim ve'la dagim. He comes and he puts a mitzuda, a trap, in order to catch fish. And he caught fish, he's going to be chayav. Why? What did he put the trap for? For the fish. He caught fish, chayav. La'alot dagim, what happens if he took the trap to catch the fish? Ve'la dagim ve'tinok. Not only did he catch the fish, he caught the child. What happened? Bli chavana, but he caught the child. Rava amar hayav, ve'Rabba amar patur. Rabba says chayav. Rabba says Rabba with a hay says patur. Veika de Amri, some people say, right? The Rabba de Itmar lo shama, if you didn't hear about Shetava, and then Rabba says patur, zil batar ma'asav, you go after the action. And Rabba says you're going to be chayav because you go after the machshava, you go after the thought. So therefore, what happens is that here you see that there's a machloket between Rabba and Rava. There's a machloket in the Gemara. Do you go after the action or do you go after the intention, the machshava? Now he says the Rambam was posek and in Ilchot Shabbat. This is the Rambam over here, right? One second. Says the Rambam, Shama shetavat tinok bayam upiresh metzuda laloto ve'elad dagim milvad patur miklum. נתכוון לעלות דגים ואלה דגים ותינוק פטור, אפילו לא שמע שטבע. הועיל ואלה תינוק עם הדגים פטור. Says the Rambam, he paskins like Rabba, but the guy is patur. Why? Even though he didn't want to bring up the child, right? Because if he would have wanted to bring up the child, it's mutar. Hey, it's pikuach nefesh, you're supposed to do it. What are you talking about? He didn't have the intention, but at the end of the day, he did actually come and he brought him up. He's going to be patur. So it comes out that even though the beginning of his action, he wanted to be Mechalel Shabbat, and he wanted to catch fish, at the end of the day, since it came out Lemafrea retroactively, that he did Pikuach Nefesh, it's Patur. So therefore he should be Patur. So right now, we just brought down two different Gemarot. First Gemara was, if somebody throws down something that's going to break, and somebody else comes and he smashes it, is he Patur or Chayav? Patur. Why? You broke something that's already broken. Right? Second Gemara is that if you come and you make a net and you're going to catch the fish on Shabbat, if you did it for the fish and you caught the fish, you chayav skila. But if you did it for the fish and you caught the fish with the child, you're actually patur. Because you did maaseh hatzalah. You saved. You didn't actually worm, even though you was mechalu Shabbat, but you saved. And therefore, it comes out you're going to be patur. Says now, right? 1 second. But there's the Gemara Nazir. Let's look at the next one. Gemara Nazir. The Gemara Nazir says as follows. Yeah, it says Aisha Shenadra Benazir. Imagine right now you come and you have a woman that she made a neder to become a Nazir. She's drinking wine. Hefer la bala, the husband does hafarat nedarim. The husband annuls her neder. Velo yada, she doesn't know about it. I mean, she didn't know that the husband came and he annulled it. And she's drinking wine the entire time. Or she's being mitamemetim the entire time. What happens? What happens is that the first opinion is ena sofeget d'arba'im. Rabbi Yehuda says, im ena sofeget d'arba'im tisvog. Fine. You can't give her lashes. Makat mardut. Makat mardut. 1 second. Makat mardut. Says the Gemara, Taru Rabbanan, Isha, P'nei Hashem yislach lah. B'ma katuv medaber. What are we talking about? That Isha, Isha with a hey, but with a mapike. Isha. A lot of people, they read the Torah and they don't read the mapike.
His wife.
And if they don't read the mapike, they change the entire explanation of what they're saying. So when it says Isha and you have a yod, it's Isha. Right? Ish shelah. Her husband.
Her husband.
Oh. Ish, a man, that's why there's a yod. Ish shelah. Her husband. So Isha haferam. It's not Isha la femme, it's Isha l'hom, right? Her husband. So what happens? So what happens is it says Isha haferam v'Hashem yislach lah. Hashem should forgive her. What are we talking about now? When Rabbi Akiva used to come to this pasuk, he used to start crying. Are you listening? Rabbi Akiva used to come to this pasuk, he used to start crying. Why? He said, ומה מי שנתכוון לעלות בידו בשר חזיר, ועלה בידו בשר טלה, טעון כפרה וסליחה. Imagine right now, you want to eat pig. Nazir. But I came and I had a lot of mercy on you. And therefore I went and I switched it. And instead of you eating the pig, you ate kosher. And says the Gemara, you need kapara uslicha. You need an atonement. המתכוון לעלות בידו בשר חזיר, ועלה בידו בשר חזיר. If right now I come and I wanted to eat chazir, and I actually do eat chazir, chas v'shalom, על אחת כמה וכמה. Then imagine what type of atonement I'm going to need. There's another pasuk. Not only the pasuk from the Nazir, Avisha pena v'Hashem yitzach la, ela v'lo yada v'Hashem v'nasa bono. What does that mean? If the same thing. כגון חתיכה ספק שומן ספק של חלב. A person has a piece of fat. He doesn't know if this fat is shuman or chelev. Shuman is permitted fats, and chelev is prohibited fats. And what happens is, it still says, he has to carry a sin. So all the more so, you want him to actually eat it. He said the same thing. For example, 2 חתיכות, אחד של חלב, אחד של שומן. על דבר זה, ידבו הדבויים וכל, right? He comes and he says, on this, everybody has to do vidui. And they have to be crying. And that, why? Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, what's going on over here? He comes and he says, why? It comes out that even if you're going to tell me now that a person should not be, right, chayav b'dinei adam, they should still be chayav b'dinei shamayim. Why should they be chayav b'dinei shamayim? Right? Because at the end of the day, right, they had intention of going against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They had intention of going against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And since they had intention going against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they need kapara. They need mechila u'slicha v'chapara. Makes sense, no? Okay, fine. So therefore, if we were going to stop the shiur until here, what are you going to tell me? So this guy that he came and he broke the utensil, should he be chayav? Should be patur? Should be chayav b'dinei adam patur b'dinei shamayim? Should be patur b'dinei adam chayav b'dinei shamayim? Right? What should this person be in such a case? So what would you tell me? You're going to tell me the what?
It's like the fisherman case.
The fisherman, the what?
Case.
That you should be patur from what?
Which
Patur from what? The fisher. He said like a fisherman case. What does that mean?
From
Be
breaking
patur b'dinei
the
adam.
Because he
No,
has the intention to fish and he got the kid.
So therefore, no. But one second, one more time.
He went to fish.
One more time. Yeah, a person comes and he broke the utensil. By the way, this exact same case was asked by the Mishpatei Shalom of Spitz. He's a Motz Tzedek in Ramot, and he was asked, right, this question, right, that basically what happened was somebody came into a store that was selling electronics, and the guy didn't realize, but he went and he broke the fax machine, and the fax machine was the only machine that wasn't covered under the inspectors, under the IRS. So what happened is that when the IRS of Israel came into the store, they checked everything was perfect. But, the guy was all busy taking care of the inspectors, and the broken machine was in a million pieces on the floor, right? They didn't even know what broke, what didn't break. They didn't pay attention, right? And then when they actually left, they went and they asked the streets, okay, fine, but now I want to charge the guy. I wanted the guy should pay for my fax. So the guy came and he said, I don't understand you. You would have had to pay 5,000 shekels, right, as a knas, as a penalty, right, for not coming and actually reporting, right, that you actually had this machinery here and that you were going to sell it. Now you want to charge me 1,000 shekel. You should pay me 4,000 shekel. I saved you 5. You should pay me 4. Yeah, you know what? Not even to pay me 4. Should be patur, but something. That was the same question that was asked.
If I have a stolen Picasso in my house and you come and you burn it.
Another case. When we're talking about now, there's a beautiful Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin. Listen to this Gemara. Rabbi Chia bar Ashi, hava ragil kol idan dehava nafil le'apeh, hava amar Rahman yasilenu miyeser hara. Imagine every single time Rabbi Chia bar Ashi used to do nifilat apayim. You know what he used to say? Hashem should save me from the Yetzer Hara. What happened was, right, Yom Chad, one day, Shametinu Devitu, his wife heard him. Amra, she comes and she says, I don't understand what's going on. She says, I don't understand what's going on. My husband separated from me for a few years already. What's he saying? Hashem should save me from the Yetzer Hara. What's going on? What's he? Imagine if he let a pine and he's saying Hashem should save me from the Yetzer Hara. How do you understand that? Yeah? How do you understand that? So he says, yeah, he comes and he says as follows. He says, right? Yom Achada, one day, Havakagaris Beginte. He was in the garden. Tishta nafsha, she beautifies herself. Khalfa betanya kameh. And she comes and she goes right in front of him. Right? And she went not in front of him once, twice. Yeah? Amala, he tells her, Manat, who are you? Amra, she comes and she says, Ana Charuta. Te'adare Niyoma. My name is Charuta. I just came back today. Charuta was known as one of the prettiest prostitutes. Yeah? So she comes and she tells her husband, I'm Charuta. Yeah, like Rahab. The famous one. So what happens? It says over there, Tav'ah. Yeah? He wants to have relations with her. So what happens? Amra lei, she tells him, says, you want? No problem. On top of the tree over there, right? There's something high up there. Can you bring it down to me? Then I give you what you want. What happened? He says, right? They were speaking about when they were still fertile, right? A few minutes ago. Yeah, so he comes and he says, right? What happens? What happens is, he gave it to her. He jumped up and he gave it to her. He became young again. You see, people, they become very young all of a sudden. Yeah, they become very young. Yeah, Remy, yeah. They become very young. All of a sudden they have, they're like, huh? Yeah, you see, they become young again. So what happens? All of a sudden, I'm going to ask you a question, by the way. Did he do the Avirah or not?
No.
So it's not that simple. We're going to see.
Everything goes.
So he says over here like this.
He was her husband.
So he says over here like this.
Right.
He comes and he says, right? When he comes home, the wife is making a fire.
Oh.
She's starting she's making a laesh. Yeah, so making a fire. Salik v'kayati begave. He goes into the oven. She comes and she tells him, Amlaleh, Vayhi, what's going on? So he says, Amlaleh, he tells her the story.
Whoa.
He tells her the story. What? Amor Gadol. He's truthful. He tells her the story. Yeah, you're being recorded, Remy.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's his name?
So he says, yeah. He says, right, 1 second. He comes, he tells her. She tells him, Amrale Anavai, it was me. So he didn't believe her. He didn't believe her. Yeah, he thought his wife became so young again. What happened? He didn't believe her. He did until what happened? Adiavela simane. Until she gave him simanim to recognize that it was actually her.
Whoa.
That means she went and she had to give him a sign in order to know it was me. It was then he believed her. What does he say? Amala. Ana mia. Leisura ichavne. But I had the kavanah to do an avirah. At the end of the day, I had the kavanah to do an avirah.
זה מה שקרה
So what
ליהודה.
happened? כל ימיו של אותו צדיק היה מתענה. The entire life of that tzaddik, he was fasting עד שמת באותה מיתה, until he died with that death. What was the death? The fire. That means he actually was burnt to death because that was that death. So what happened? So you see from here, right, that all of a sudden, look, the person is getting punished. And therefore he comes and he says, and that's the explanation, that Rabbi Akiva, Isha, the Tanya, as he says, Isha, Rabbi Akiva, when he got to this pasuk, he was crying, but he said, which means at the end of the day, his kavanah was what? Was for an avirah. What happened at the end? It was mutar. There was no avirah done. Does he need an atonement? Yes. Bidei Shamayim, he needs an atonement. And therefore what happened? He needed an atonement. So therefore, that's why Rabbi Akiva was crying. Because Rabbi Akiva says, if this is what's going on, so imagine what's going to happen. So this is the Gemara in Kiddushin, Pe'alef Amud Bet. The other Gemara in Kiddushin actually says, right? Also, there's something very huh? But Rabbi de Shamayim. So therefore, another Gemara in Kiddushin says, the Rabba Baravuna, right? The Ravuna Karashirai Be'ampe Rabba Bereh. So you know that Rabba Baravuna came and he tore clothing in front of his son, Rabba, and he went and he said, I want to see if he gets angry or not. Meaning, I want to test him if he's going to get angry. See what? Yeah. Tore it. Is he going to get angry? He wanted to find out. Is he going to get angry or not going to get angry? Yeah? Is he going to get angry or not going to get angry? He wants to find out. Yeah? So he comes and he says, he wants to find out. Yeah, I'm also, give him the keys. Yeah? So he said, yeah. Domino effect. Yeah. So he says this. He says like this. He says, does he need an atonement? Obviously he needs an atonement. But listen to this. Comes Rabbi Baravuna and he tears the clothing of his son to see if he gets angry. Why? He wants to test him out. What happened? Says the Rashid Tosafot over there. וצריך לומר שהודיעו קודם לכן שלא יהיה כמו נתכוון לאכול בשר חזיר ולא בידו בשר טלה. אמר לכיוון שצריך באכילה אוכל בכפרה. The Gemara asks, 1 second, he's over on לפני עיוור. He's over on לפני עיוור לא צריך... If the father comes and he tears the son's clothing, right? He's over on לפני עיוור, because now if the child gets angry, what happens? לפני עיוור לא צריך לשאול. So he comes and he says, he forgave him. He said from the beginning, I forgive him. Even if he gets angry with me, I forgive him. So there's no lifnei ver. Then the Gemara asks, there should be bal tashchit, whatever. Okay, fine. But what happens? Says the Gemara, right? The Tosafot is saying that he had to tell him beforehand, because if not, then he thinks he's doing an avirah. Right? Again, the same yesod. So it comes out, right? Comes out like this, right? Comes out that like this. Listen carefully. It comes out now that we want to say that this was actually going to be a question which was asked, okay? And the question which was asked, there's many other halachot, by the way, right, to do with this. For example, halachal maseh, a person needs a doctor on Shabbat, and it's mutar to be mechalel Shabbat. Should you go to a religious doctor or a not religious doctor? The best one. Let's say they're both the best. Should you go to the religious doctor or not a religious doctor?
What do you like?
Not religious, because anyways it's Mechalel Shabbat.
מה, יהודי לא מחלל שבת? מה משנה אם הוא דתי או לא?
There's the שמירת שבת כהלכתה. מותר לפנות לרופא שאינו שומר שבת או שהוא נוכרי, אם הוא יותר מומחה. גם אם יש רופא דתי במקום. שמעתי מרב שלמה זלמן אורבך. That means basically you could go to a non-religious doctor or to a goy if they're better, obviously. But then he says, I heard in the name of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, עדיף תפל לעשות המלאכה על ידי שומר מצוות. You should go to a religious doctor. Why? His kavanah is to be mechalel Shabbat for a mitzvah.
Who?
The doctor.
But anyway, why you want to bother him? If he's not already mechalel Shabbat, why you make him?
Because now when he's mechalel Shabbat and it's mutar for Chazak Baruch.
What?
The doctor said it.
What?
Who's the halacha? By the way, you should know Rav Katzin said that to us. Rav Katzin that's here, Yitzchak Katzin. He said that his father, he still remembers when he was a young child, right? That there was a woman that she had some type of a stroke, car, I don't remember what it was. He said his father was the one that took the car and drove her to the hospital on Shabbat. His father. You don't get an Amaretz to do it, right? Where's the Batman phone in our Bet Knesset?
What?
The red phone. Right? Where is it? Behind my seat. Why is it behind my seat? Because Halacha states that if somebody has to be Mechalel Shabbat for somebody that's going to be Pikuach Nefesh, who is it? It's the rabbi. The one that's the most religious, not the less religious.
Why?
Because if you're going to get the less religious, they're going to say that really Be'emet Pikuach Nefesh doesn't doche Shabbat. So anyway, the guy's not religious. So you get the guy, you get the goy Shabbat Keilu. You understand? The guy that's hardly religious, get him to be Mechalel Shabbat. No. The most religious. To show you the Pikuach Nefesh is doche et Shabbat. That's Shitat Maran. Maran Siman Shin Kafchet, that's Halacha. That's the way the Halacha is. Says Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is Shmirat Shabbat Yilchita. The exact same. If you have a choice to go to the religious doctor, you know that when he's being Mechalel Shabbat, he has in mind to do a mitzvah. You should go to him. If you're going to the non-religious doctor, he anyways Mechalel Shabbat. He doesn't kavanah mitzvah, no mitzvah.
No, but
He
the-
doesn't care about it.
We have the.
So therefore, since anyway he's
אתה
doing
נוכח.
Hechal Shabbat,
אתה נוכח.
no, or הרופא חילוני, שאין לו שומר שבת. No, but we said that Shomer Shabbat when he's talking about, I'm going to ask you another question.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you another question. You have the choice. Somebody Chas Shalom is sick on Shabbat here. We have the choice. We got Roberto to drive into the hospital, or I drive. into the hospital.
It's in the car.
Rabbi, very good.
למה שם לו את הטלפון
I
ליד?
just told you because the fact is that you don't want to show.
The way you want me to
You
make
don't want-
you Mechalel Shabbat.
Because that's why, because since Pikuach Nefesh is a trap for them to come, you want to show everybody it's mutar lechatchila to be mechalel Shabbat for Pikuach Nefesh.
אבל למה אתה
Yeah,
אתה
שניסים.
אתה מבין את זה? זה הבעיה.
Forget about
אני לא זוכר.
תזרום, אתה אומר,
לא,
תגיד לו.
אני לא זוכר.
תגיד לו.
קצין. אבל אני say with the time, קצין.
אתה שואל. אני לא התכוונתי להגיד לו, אבל כאילו אתה... תגיד לו.
אוקיי?
תגיד לו בשבילך.
Should you go to a
יש דברים, לא מחמם את העניין.
No, that's another question now. We're not going to get there now.
מה זה...
One more time. One second, please. Everyone stay on top. Stay on top.
חצי שעה
Okay?
ישן.
Yeah?
בגלל זה אני יושן, כי אני לא אצליח.
The Mekor Chaim comes, and because of this question, he answers. Listen, again, what was the original question? The question was, somebody comes into the place, he breaks the thing, is he going to be Chayav, going to be Patur? What's going on? Says the Mekor Chaim, Tshuva, Lichora Nireshu Patur. Should be Patur. Why? He broke something that's broken. Right? The Gemara Bava Kama, you throw it off the roof, it's going to be broken. Chazak Uruch. But from Tosafot there, it seems that you should be Chayav. Why? Tosafot says something very interesting. Tosafot says that what happened is that you took the utensil and you threw it down. I come and I take a bat and I hit with the bat. So therefore, even without me breaking anything, it was already broken. So therefore, I'm patur. The batter, the guy that's practicing baseball, he's patur. Okay. Tosafot says, what about a different case? What happens if I have the utensil here and I took an arrow or I took a stone and I threw it at the utensil? One more time. The utensil's here. I'm over there. I took an arrow. I come with an arrow or a shotgun, whatever. I shoot. Now what happens is you have the bat over
זה מה
here.
שקרה לי, הרב.
Very good. Okay. Very good. And you want to come and you want to baseball. Boom. And you
What? The vase?
the vase.
Obviously.
But he already shot
before the arrow hit
before the arrow hit it. Before the arrow hit it.
He has a chance that.
Says Tosafot, you're chayav in that case. Says Tosafot, you're chayav in that case. So he comes and he says, so according to Tosafot, maybe you would be chayav.
Yeah, because maybe somebody's going to catch it.
Maybe exactly. Then he says, "Ve'od nireh miraya," but the Gemara Bava Metzia. But there was a Gemara Bava Metzia that we forgot to do. Look at this Gemara Bava Metzia. Look at the Gemara Bava Metzia. We're going back up. Bava Metzia, Lamed Vav Amud Bet. Baba Haki, you're looking. It's right there behind me. I'm here. Okay. Lamed Vav Amud Bet.
Page 2.
Page 2.
Tu remontes à la page 2 à la fin. Oui, parce qu'il est remonté là.
Yeah, the Gemara says, Itmar, it was stated. Pashaba v'yatzat la'agam umeta kedarkach. Imagine right now, you are a shomer, or you've been listening. You're a shomer on an animal. And when you're a shomer on an animal, you are negligent. And what happened? It goes out to the swamp, but it died normally. So again, you were poshe'ah, but it died naturally. You were negligent, but it died naturally. Natural death. Says the Gemara, Abaye says, Mishme derabba, Amar, you're going to be chayav. Rava Mishme derabba Amar, patur. The Gemara says, 1 second. Abaye comes and he says, any dayan that's not going to judge like this, right? Dayan is a judge, yeah? That's not going to judge like this. Love dayanahu. He's not going to be a dayan. Says, why? He says, lo mi baye lemad damar. Right? לא מבא למד דמה. תחילתו בפשיעה וסופו באונס חייב, דחייב. Says not only according to the mandamar that says, right, that if you did at the beginning with pshia and at the end be'ones, you're going to be patur, right? You're going to be chayav is chayav. Even according to the mandamar, you're going to be patur. I'm going to say that the hevel of the swamp, the fumes of the swamp killed him. And therefore you should be chayav. Rava says you should be patur. And any dayan that does not judge like this is not a dayan. Says why? Not only according to the mandamar tchilato b'shia v'sovo ben patur, they should be patur. But even according to the mandamar chayav, you're going to be patur. Why? Because I'm going to say the malach hamavet is going to tell you what's the difference between this place or another place. The malach hamavet, if the malach hamavet is going to kill it, you think the malach hamavet cares where's the direction? Where's the ktovet? Where's the address? You think the malach hamavet cares where's the address? Malach hamavet doesn't care the address. You heard? Malach hamavet doesn't care about that.
So how does he know where to go?
There is.
So how does he know where to go?
The place.
No, but he doesn't care. But he doesn't care
How
about
does he
that.
know where to go?
So he says, Maliacha, Maliatam. What do I care over here, over there? So he says, but Mode Abaye dihadra lebeimara umeta. But if you already gave it back to the owners and it died, now you're going to be patur. Why? You gave it back to it. You gave it back to the owners. And therefore that's it. Right? And you can't say because of the hevel. He says, and Rava is going to admit that what happens if it was stolen? You're going to be chayav. He says, why? He says, even though it died naturally, because when it died in the house of the Ganav. Meaning anyway, it doesn't go back to the owner. Okay? So now, according to this Gemara, says, we're going back to the Mekor Chaim, that he was asked this question.
Go back to the.
He comes and he says, it was page 4. He comes and he says, but it should be right, you should be chayav from this Gemara. The Gemara says that once it's stolen, right, and basically once it's not going to the owner's house, you're going to be chayav. But then he comes and he says, but you know what? I still think it should be patur. From where? From the Gemara Menachot. That was the case of the what? Of the fish. What Philip said. You should be patur from the case of the fish. Even though my intention was to be mechalel Shabbat, the fact that I went and I was mechalel Shabbat, but I brought up the child, I'm going to be patur. So you should be patur. And therefore, there shouldn't be a problem. But I should still be chayav b'dinei shamayim. Why should I be chayav b'dinei shamayim? Because just like of the Nazir, and just like the Gemara and Kiddushin of the rabbi that he wanted to do the Avidah, and that means basically since my intention was to do an Avidah, so therefore I should be chayav b'dinei shamayim. So comes the Sefer Mekor Hayim, and he says, in our case, you should be patur b'dinei Adam, meaning I cannot obligate you money. But in Shamayim, technically, you're obligated to pay. But I cannot take out money. Meaning, in a betim, I cannot take out a penny. But in Shamayim, so technically, right? No, so technically, Mina Shamayim, if he wants to pay it off, he pays it off, and then that's it. Oh. But I cannot, but you could not take it out. You cannot force it. You cannot enforce it. So if that is the psak, one second. That is the psak of the Mekor Hayim. Okay? Until here we're clear. Comes another rabbi. His name was Rav Shlomo Kohen, that he was also a mutz in Vilna during those times. And he comes and he brings down this Mekor Hayim, and he comes and he says like this, Acharei drishat Shalom v'tov. Look up there. Bati lashivo shnei michtavai yikarim. I'm going to answer you on the two questions that you on the two letters that you wrote. Look at all your beautiful words and everything on the guy that he came and he broke it, but there's no bet midrash without a chidush. So I'm going to come and now I'm going to answer you. Now what's he going to do? He's going to destroy royally everything that we just said, point by point. Listen very carefully. We're going to take everything and now we're going to flip a lot of things. So listen carefully. Number 1, uberosh, at the beginning. כל מרין ראיתי להעיר ולעמוד על דבריו. במה שרצה להעביר היה, right, לזה מהזורק כלי מנו שגג. You wanted to bring a Gemara to say whether it's patur or asur, or like patur or chayav from the Gemara of throwing down a utensil from the roof and then mid-air coming and breaking it, or the throwing of the chetz or everything, correct? That's what you wanted to do. He comes and he says, right, like this. He comes and he says, I don't understand you. You yourself, you deferred it from Tosafot. The Tosafot says it's not the same, because technically it's like throwing the arrow, right, and destroying the barrel. You're going to be chayav according to Tosafot. So he comes and he says, even if we're not going to say like Tosafot, because some people do that, right? Like just like I'm going to write down that some poskim don't pass like Tosafot. It's not compared to it whatsoever. Why not? I thought you guys were going to tell me. Why is it not compared to the case of the Tosafot? Why is it not?
There's a doubt. It's going to break. It's going to break. With the arrow.
Continue. And what about the Gemara case? What was the case of the Gemara?
Of the what? Of the
Of the vase. What was the case? Like somebody came on the roof, he threw it down, and then what happened? Somebody's on the bottom. He's got the hat, the bat. He goes, boom. What do you say? He's patur. So Safot says, okay, in that case, you're patur. But let's say I didn't throw it off the roof. Let's say I'm on the side and I took an arrow and I go, whoops, and it shoots, right? And all of a sudden, Eli is playing bats. And Eli smashes it before it gets there. Is Eli patur or chayav? Chayav. That's what Tosfot says. Why is it not compared not to A and not to B? Not to the Gemara, not to Tosafot. Why is it not compared?
There is no middle things. He goes direct. He brought directly the wine, the jar.
And therefore?
There is no chance that there is nothing on the middle.
And what happens?
There is something in the middle.
Basically, what Philip is trying to say, right? I'm going to beautify his words. And what he's trying to say is as follows. Right? He comes and he says, right? Your words are always beautiful. Yeah? He says like this. He says, what happens is, yeah, he comes and he says like this. Yeah, he comes and he says like this. He says, what happens is in the case where somebody threw it down, was it already broken?
Not yet, no.
But it's already broken.
Yeah.
Why? Because without intervention of anybody else, it's already a broken. Meaning, the second the guy is up there and he throws it down, Kaddish.
Right.
You're right. If a hockey comes with a savior, he's a Tala, and he's fine. But if there's nobody,
The guy with
it's
the bed, he
already
won't break nothing. The
destroyed.
guy with the bed,
There's nothing what to talk about. What's that?
If the gravity stopped, I don't know.
Nah, you can tell your doctor. Yeah, fine. Now, he says like this. He says, what is our case? Our case, the guy came and he smashed it. He says, he's already chayav. What do I care if 10 minutes later, the Mashiach came because he broke the thing? What do I care about what happened afterwards? When he came and he broke it, he's already chayav. He says, I don't understand you. Imagine right now, I think the doctor said this case, somebody comes and he steals, right, the watch, right, or whatever it was that he stole. A Picasso, he comes and he steals it. And he takes it to the Ganav's house. The IRS, biduk after that moment, the FBI come, they make a whole raid in the guy's house. They checked everything. They didn't find the Picasso. They didn't find anything. So he's patur. Are you going to tell me the Ganav is nothing? The Ganav did a maaseh geneva. He stole. He's 100% chayav. 100% chayav. That which happens afterwards? How's that going to... Here, it's in the middle. It's already destroyed. I'm going to come, I'm going to destroy it. You're not destroyed. You came and you destroyed it. What are you doing? You understand? So it's completely different. That's what he says. He says, I don't understand you. Then he comes and he says, right? He comes and he says, that came only afterwards. Mamash, he's breaking it biyadayim. And that which became good, that was only born afterwards. That only came afterwards. That didn't come right now. It's a completely separate maaseh. It's a separate action. That's number one. He says it's compared to the case of a Metzia, that he said that since he was already chayav because of the geneva, right? Now all of a sudden, it doesn't matter where he dies anymore. Because the second that the guy stole it, the shomer is already chayav to pay, even though it died naturally. If it died naturally, maybe it would have died naturally by the owner, but it doesn't matter. Once the geneva was done, it's not going to come back. Then he comes and he says, right? He continues going, and he says, right, okay, fine, it's not barur that Bichlal was going to break at all, or maybe that they couldn't have, because he wants to say, okay, fine, but at the end of the day, he did save the guy, so it's not true. Maybe it could be that these guys are going to come in for the inspection, and they wouldn't see it, he would have hidden it, he would have done this, he would have done that, There's 100%, it's not 100% the fact. So he says, and even that which he brought it from the fish. You remember, what was his proof? His proof was from the fish, to say that, he says there, the same melacha of Seidah was the pikuach nefesh. So therefore he comes and he says, Sfeika lo nafka d'shema ala tinok mitchila, b'yevshal l'chayvo chatat o skila misfeika, which means like this. How did he save the child? Through the melechet Seidah, through the trapping. It was the same action. So the same action of trapping was what saved him, because at the end of the day, it saved the person's life. Here, it wasn't the same action of breaking. He went and he broke the barrel. 10 minutes later, the guys come and they say, now it's going. It's two separate things. Right. So you cannot compare the two. So he comes and he says, right? So you cannot come and compare them. Umimela benidon didan. Damachshava v'gam ha'maaseh haya la'azik. Right? He comes and he says, the machshava and the maaseh was to be mazik chavero. Gam le'rabba, you're going to be chayav to pay. And even if afterwards, right, he comes and he says that it was going to be good for him, but it doesn't matter. at the end of the day has nothing one to do with another. And now he comes and he says, right? So now you went and you said, Dinei Shamayim, you're going to be chayav. He comes and he says, really be'emet, and they brought a proof. Right? Remember that the rabbi first at the beginning wanted to say that you should be patur. Right? First he wanted to say you should be patur. Then he said you should be chayav from Tosfot. Then he says you should be patur from the case of the fish. He comes and he destroys every one of the proofs.
Right.
Everything. Now he comes and he says, 1 second, but you should be chayav still be Dinei Shamayim. That's what he says. You should be chayav b'dinei shamayim. Why? From the case of Nazir. That's what he said. You should be chayav b'dinei shamayim because of the case of Nazir. He comes and he says, "Lefi ma shekatavti lechalek b'mazik l'shar isurim, b'mazik tali yikad im haya lo hezek lechavero oto vetu en raya misham. Tefshar b'mazik af b'dinei shamayim eno chayav." He comes and he says, "You know what? I want to make a differentiation between mazik, right, and between anything else." Mazik, everything happens to be with, did you do hezek or not? Did you damage or didn't you damage? With Isurim, it has nothing to do with it. And therefore, it has to do with the kavanah or not the kavanah. So now I'm going to tell you an incredible, right, yesod. Listen to this yesod. V'zeh karov, I want everyone to pay attention because this is something of a chidush that I'm telling you, if you do not hold on to your chairs, you're going to fall. Listen carefully. וזה קרוב ל-34 שנה. This is close to 34 years. אשר ביארתי בזה, that I'm going to explain with this, the bright and kiddushin that we brought down of Rabbi Akiva, that we used to get to the pasuk, he would say, that this, the Sefer, right, the Shuk Binyan Shlomo. He says, Isha Feram Vashem Yislach La, that Rabbi Akiva was crying. And he says, V'amar, Misha Nitkaren, Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, the guy that wants to eat basar chazir, and then he gets basar tleh, and he says he needs slicha v'chapara. So alacha kamevchama, he comes and he asks 4 different questions. Listen to this, right? If you're missing this, you missed the entire shiur. Chaval, b'rachal batala. Listen carefully. Question number 1: why is Rabbi Akiva crying on this pasuk? Why is Rabbi Akiva crying more than any other Tana?
איזה פסוק?
On this pasuk of Isha ha'peram v'Hashem yislach la. Why is Rabbi Akiva crying? Why specifically Rabbi Akiva? Number 2, why is it that Rabbi Akiva needed to learn it from basar chazir, v'alav yado basar, right? Basar chazir, v'alav yado chazir, from a kal v'chomer? Everyone knows that. If somebody eats basar chazir, he's over on a lav. Obviously, he needs a kapara. Rabbi Akiva is doing kal v'chomer. If somebody wanted to eat chazir, and then he ate, and then he went and he ate chicken, he needs kapara. So if somebody wants to eat chazir, and he does eat chazir, alacham kama v'chama, kal v'chomer.
It's not a chidush, right?
It's not a chidush.
Right.
You ate chazir. That's question number 2. Question number 3. What does it mean? Be'alab yado. What do you mean alab yado basar chazir? Be'achal basar chazir. You ate. Yeah, it came up to his hands basar chazir. What's going on? Number 4. Why does he say basar chazir more than any other isur? Why pig than any other isur? And listen to this. Ve'amarti liyashev hakol bechad hamachta. I wanted to answer it in one answer. One answer. Listen to this answer. We know that Asara Haruge Malchut, the 10 martyrs, was because of the selling of Yosef HaTzadik. And that's why they were 10. Because why were they 10? Right? They were really 9. But who is also there? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he comes and he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzilfa shechina imahem, vayu Asara, just like Rashi says in the Chumash. Yalkut Mishle is a midrash. Yalkut Shimoni on Mishle says, Bechol dor vador. In every generation, Neragim Asarat Tzadikim B'Shilchet Mechirat Yosef. Every generation you have 10 people dying. In every single generation. Not once upon a time. Every single generation, you have 10 people dying because of Mechirat Yosef. Yalkut Shimoni, a midrash. So he says, "Ubizman Rabbi Ishmael Kohen Gadol v'Rashbag hayu od 8." There were another 8 people besides Rabbi Ishmael Kohen Gadol v'Rashbag. Ach lo yadin amanu, but we don't know who they were, or they weren't chashuvim kol kach, and therefore they didn't mention it. During the time of Rabbi Akiva, there were another 9, and also during the time of Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion, there were another 9. And now we understand the question that everybody asks. Do you know, we sing kina on the 10 martyrs. And he says, do you know that if you actually pay attention in the kinot, it's only written 7 names. It doesn't give all 10. I mentioned 7. And even of the 7, they weren't the same time. They didn't live in the same time period. So what's going on? How is it going that you're mentioning 10 people and really there were only 7 wrote down? And they were all in different time periods. Different generations. So what's going on? Aval, according to the Yalkut, now it comes out why. Listen to this. The Sefer Megalea Mukot. He says Rabbi Akiva was the kapara for the Shekhinah, for Hashem. Because remember, there were 10 brothers. So one of them always has to be an atonement for the Shekhinah, for Hashem. So he comes and he says, and that's what they told Rabbi Akiva and Yevamot, Ashrecha Rabbi Akiva, Shezachita Lesham. Fortunate Rabbi Akiva that you were zochet to be there. Velo igata l'roeh bakar. And you weren't a roeh bakar, like a cattle, water shepherd of cattle. What does he answer them? Afilu l'roeh tzon, not even a cattle, not even a shepherd of sheep. The Arizal HaKadosh says, Ashrecha shezachita liot kapara b'shvil Hashem yitbarach. Fortunate are you to be the atonement for Hashem yitbarach. Te'ashrecha shezachita liot v'adayin lo igata lema'ala shel roeh bakar. That you're still not a roeh bakar. He comes and he says, I was in Ma'alat HaShvatim. The Shvatim were roeh tzon. That means he comes and he says, how am I going to be the kapara for the Shekhinah if I didn't even get to the level of the Shvatim, that they're roeh tzon, that they're even shepherds of cattle, of the sheep? I'm not even there. That's what is brought down in the name of the Rizal HaKadosh. So now I'm going to explain to you the Braita. All the days of Rabbi Akiva, he wasn't afraid of Mechirat Yosef. He wasn't afraid of Mechirat Yosef. He says, you know why? Because he said, what was such a big Avirah? Yosef HaTzadik told the brothers, and that's how we started the shiur today, Elohim chashava letovara. Hashem thought that it was good to sell me. Don't worry about selling me. Hashem said it was a good thing for the sale. Why? You did a favor to the Jewish nation. Everything good came out of it. And therefore, even though that he knew that there was always going to be 10 people coming and getting a punishment for it, right? Just like he knew, he thought, okay, fine. It wasn't going to be that he has to die al Kiddush Hashem. It doesn't have to be such a terrible punishment. Okay, fine. So there has to be some punishment because of the sale. Fine. Aval kevan she'igia lemikra hazeh. Once Rabbi Akiva got to this pasuk, he started crying. Rabbi Akiva got to this pasuk, and now he starts crying. He says, you know why? He says, De'af lemi shala biado basar taleh. If at the end of the day, you only wanted kosher food, right? What does that mean? At the end of the day, you wanted to eat the non-kosher, but at the end of the day, it was the kosher. And you still need kapara. All the more so in the chet of Yosef. Shala biadam gamken basar chazid. But they actually did it because they sold Yosef. And they sold him. Even though at the end it became good, he comes and he says, and that's why it doesn't say they ate basar chazid. It came up in their hands, basar chazid. Meaning, the brothers, they wanted to sell Yosef. So they wanted to do the Avirah. Did they actually do the Avirah? They did. And they sold him. At the end, something good came out of it. At the end, the IRS came and the thing came and they were able to find out that he was saved. That came up afterwards. So Rabbi Akiva comes and he started crying because now he realizes, right, that now all of a sudden everything changes. Because now that he sees this explanation, the pasuk, now that's it. And now he comes and he says, so now why do we get explicitly the pig? He says, because the Midrash says in the future, the pig is going to become tahor. Yeah. But still right now, when you come and you eat the pig, you're going to get lashes. So therefore he says, Hachinami b'mechirat Yosef. The exact same thing happens in Mechirat Yosef. That even though it was Galui v'yadua lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that it was good and it was mina shamayim, since they didn't know that, and they need slicha v'chapara, and that's why he was crying, because he already knew that it was a big sin. And therefore, this is his downfall. Meaning, since Rabbi Akiva knows that he's going to take the punishment for the 10 brothers, right? And in every single generation, you're going to have 10 people that are going to die because of this. Rabbi Akiva gets to this pasuk and now he starts crying. So because of this, now he comes and he says, when Yosef HaTzadik comes and he says, Elokim chashava l'tova, it's 5:25. Right? So he comes and he says, so what happens? He comes and he says, there's no problem. So now he comes and he says, according to this, right? Now he understands that he wants to say really be'emet, the person should be chayav b'dinei adam as well. Meaning the psak of the Binyan Shlomo, and that's also the psak of Mishpatat Torah, is that the guy that came and that he smashed the barrel of wine, right? Or the guy that came and he broke the fax machine, he's chayav b'dinei adam, not only b'dinei shamayim. B'dinei adam is going to be chayav. Why? Because he disproved everything that we mentioned before, to do with the case of the breaking of the babakama, of the throwing down, or of the because of the case of the fish, because the fish was at the same time that you brought up the net and you did the maaseh of the salah that you saved. You came in. Here was something completely different. Here you completely destroyed something, and then afterwards, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a miracle, and all of a sudden it was good for you. Kol hakavod, you accepted it, but right now you did a maaseh shchata, you destroyed. So therefore, the psak the maaseh is that he wants to say be'emet, you're going to be right chayav. So according to this is how he's actually going to finish off. Obviously, there's actually still much more to the shiur. There's much more. There's Orach Chaim HaKadosh on this week's Parashat to do with this concept. That what does it mean that he comes? Because according to what Yosef is saying, guys, don't worry about it. Hashem thought about it too good. So why were we punished with the 10 martyrs? Doesn't make sense. So we have to go back and forth, and there's so many beautiful answers. Bezrat Hashem bli neder. After during the Seudah, we'll continue a few minutes while everyone's eating their barbecue. Bezrat Hashem, we'll be able to continue Bezrat Hashem.